We need to expand our understanding of narcissism by basing it on something beyond the DSM, beyond the psychological definition of the disorder. Because to me, this is an insufficient explanation. To those who are coming to terms with the reality of narcissism and narcissistic abuse, the current collection of information about it appears to communicate that if you have identified the narcissist or the narcissists in your life, i.e., it could be a parent, a spouse, an intimate partner, etc., boss, etc., and you learn about the tactics that they use to abuse and control you, and learn how to break free, you will break free from narcissists and narcissism for good. But in my experience, that's not true at all. True freedom would mean being able to identify and break free from narcissism in all its forms. I repeat again, in all its forms. And this can only happen when we begin to understand the impact of narcissism on the larger environment of our collective existence, and understand how significantly it dominates life as we know it. In my work with survivors, with abuse victims, I have seen many emerge victorious and free from their abusers, only to eventually get caught up in some other type of narcissistic web and not even realize what is happening. The DSM defines narcissistic personality disorder as a form of cluster B personality disorder, and the ICD also describes this disorder in the field of psychology with a list of symptoms, and the criteria for being diagnosed with this disorder are quite a stringent criteria. And according to research, somewhere less than between 1 and 3% of the population anywhere are said to have NPD. So if we look at this understanding, then it seems to point in the direction of saying that narcissism is a relatively minor or a rarer phenomenon, which in my experience is really not the case. If you see how so many people who have been victims of this type of abuse are coming forward with their stories, with their experiences, and if you look and you observe how frequently one would come across narcissism in a variety of ways on a day-to-day basis, and I can personally vouch for this experience that you will come across it on some level or the other on a day-to-day basis, then simply NPD, which according to scientists is less than 3% of the population, is an inadequate explanation. And that is not to say that the scientific explanation is wrong, or it doesn't exist, or there are more people that have NPD than the 3%. Honestly, I don't know. It's something I would have to study if I ever had the chance. But currently, I don't have the answer to that. But what I have observed is you do not have to have NPD to cause the kind of damage that a narcissist can cause. If someone subscribes to the same values as one who has NPD, i.e., one may observe a similar thought process and attitude in people who may not otherwise get diagnosed with NPD for a variety of reasons, which could be they may miss the cutoff scores, they don't meet all the criteria, or they simply won't get tested, or have been very, very good at malingering and gotten away with hoodwinking the tests, and their NPD has gone undetected. There could be a variety of reasons, I don't know. But a lot of these people wouldn't sufficiently meet the criteria and get a diagnosis. But if you look at the narcissism, not look at the narcissism, I beg your pardon, if you look at narcissism as a descriptive term that would encompass a certain set of values, certain types of behaviors, and very importantly, a certain mindset, then it is far more prevalent than we would like to think. A lot of people have commented about, a couple of years ago, there wasn't all this material on social media, this hoo-ha about narcissism, and now there is, and now it seems that everybody is a narcissist, and everybody's on YouTube or other social media talking about their narcissistic ex, or their narcissistic family, or their narcissistic boss, and it just seems to be everywhere. And certainly I have to agree that the term has become overused, and many have misunderstood the term and have been quick to label someone a narcissist erroneously. But there is another reason it seems to be everywhere, and it is because we are beginning to recognize that there is a certain narcissistic mindset and behavior that permeates societies pretty much worldwide, and it needs an exploration that is beyond the scope of psychology. Therefore, I have actually coined a term that, to my understanding, is going to explain this phenomenon a little bit more broadly and validate the experiences of more people. When you look at the comment sections of videos from some very well-established YouTubers who have some great material on narcissism, and you can literally see hundreds and hundreds of comments from people which are very heartfelt and which are coming out and saying, you know what, I feel so validated by this video, or I feel so validated by everything you just said, because it happened to me. Exactly this happened to me. And I think we need to acknowledge that we don't need to use this very limited NPD definition of narcissism to gaslight these people, because then we would simply say, well, there are just too many of you. And when you look at the criterion for the disorder, and when you look at the research that says the percentage of people that have it, you can't possibly have encountered narcissism, because there seems to be a mismatch in terms of the sheer quantity of what's happening in the world and what we claim NPD is, and the percentage of people that we have said is scientifically researched who actually have it. So in my understanding, what's going on a larger scale in societies worldwide is that somewhere narcissism as a descriptive term and the patriarchy as a system of oppression, as a very oppressive system, have far more similarities of far more validity as terms that can be clubbed together, because there are a lot of parallels between the descriptive term narcissism and the way the patriarchy works. So I have coined a term which is called the narcissism, and to me it describes the patriarchy as it currently exists, driven by narcissistic values and a narcissistic mindset. And it's going to be a very important term going forward, as I'm hoping to offer a more rounded explanation as to why everyone seems to behave like a narcissist or be a narcissist because of this narcissism. As I mentioned earlier on in this video, I have seen a lot of these people fall right back into the trap of narcissism, because there is a trap and it has a much wider net than most people realize, even when they have the best of intentions and the strongest boundaries. And to me, it's because we are swimming in this stuff. And for us to leave a unit or a person behind who we think was responsible for the abuse that we suffered is insufficient, because if we are to continue to maintain a level of recovery, to continue to thrive in the aftermath of this kind of abuse, because that unit or that person were and have always been part of a larger system, and that is what I am going to describe when I refer to or when I talk about the narcissism. So this is coming up in another video in more detail. So next week we are going to talk about the narcissism in more detail, and I hope to use that video to introduce people to perhaps another or more broader definition of narcissism, and hopefully help us to change and avoid this system. Thank you very much for your time.